I never thought my father's need to diminish me would be the thing that saved my life. But here we are. My name is Emma. And this is the night everything changed. The engagement party was at the Ashford estate, one of those old money venues with crystal chandeliers and marble floors that echo when you walk. My sister Claire had been planning this for months. She wanted everything perfect. The flowers. The champagne. The way our family looked to his family. Especially the way our family looked. I wore a navy dress, simple, elegant, nothing flashy. I didn't want to outshine her. That's always been my role. Step back. Smile. Let Claire have the spotlight. Dad was already 3 glasses deep when I arrived. I could see it in his eyes, that glassy, jovial look he gets when he's decided tonight's his night to perform. Mom stood beside him, her smile tight, her hand on his elbow like she could anchor him. I should have known then. I should have seen it coming. But I didn't. If you're enjoying this so far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Trust me, you'll want to see where this goes. Claire found me by the bar. She looked radiant, blonde hair swept up, diamond earrings catching the light. Her fiancé, Greg, was beside her. Tall, clean-cut, the kind of guy who wore a family crest on his blazer without irony. Emma, Claire said, squeezing my hand. Come meet Greg's parents. I followed her through the crowd. People were laughing, clinking glasses. A string quartet played something soft in the corner. Everything felt warm and golden and perfect. Then we reached them. Greg's parents stood near the grand window overlooking the gardens. His father was tall, silver-haired, with the kind of posture that spoke of military service or boarding schools. His mother wore pearls and an expression that said she was evaluating every person in the room. Mom, Dad, Greg said, smiling. This is Emma. Claire's sister. His mother extended a hand. Her grip was firm, practiced. Lovely to meet you, dear. You too, I said. His father nodded. Claire's told us so much about you. I doubted that, but I smiled anyway. Then he asked the question. So, Emma, what is it you do? I opened my mouth. I was ready to answer. I do strategic intelligence analysis for the Department of Defense. I assess geopolitical threats. I brief senior officials on matters of national security. I've spent the last 8 years building a career that most people will never even know exists. But I didn't get the chance. Because Dad appeared. Out of nowhere. Smiling that big, performative smile. She delivers meal kits, he announced, laughing. You know, those boxes? HelloFresh, Blue Apron, that sort of thing. Drives a van around town dropping off groceries. The air left my lungs. Greg's parents blinked. Claire's face went pale. Really? Greg's mother said, her voice polite but distant now. How industrious. His father nodded slowly. Good, honest work. The words hung there. Good. Honest. Work. Like I was a charity case. Like I was something to be pitied. Dad clapped me on the shoulder, still grinning. She's a hard worker, this one. Out there every day, rain or shine. Then he walked away. Just like that. I stood there, frozen. Claire wouldn't look at me. Greg cleared his throat. Well, it's great you're staying active. His mother smiled, thin, dismissive, and turned to greet someone else. I felt my chest tighten. My throat burned. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab Dad by the collar and ask him why. Why he felt the need to humiliate me. Why my accomplishments were never enough. Why he introduced Claire as our brilliant daughter, the event planner, but I was just the girl who delivered groceries. But I didn't. I just stood there. Smiling. Nodding. Dying inside. Then Greg's father's phone rang. He glanced at the screen. His face changed. All the color drained from it. "Excuse me," he said quietly, stepping away. I watched him move toward the hallway, phone pressed to his ear. His posture had shifted, shoulders tight, head down. He wasn't just taking a call. He was receiving orders. I could see his mouth moving. Clipped words. Yes. No. I understand. Then he stopped. He looked back toward me. His eyes locked onto mine. And I saw it. Recognition. Confusion. Fear. He hung up. He walked back slowly, like a man approaching something dangerous. When he reached us, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Emma?" I nodded. "You're Emma Calloway?" "Yes." He swallowed hard. "The Emma Calloway? Defense Intelligence?" The world tilted. Claire's head snapped toward me. Greg's mother's pearls seemed to tighten around her neck. Dad, across the room, turned. "That was the Secretary of State," Greg's father said, his voice shaking. "He needs to speak with you. Immediately." I felt my pulse in my ears. "What?" "There's been an incident. A credible threat. You're the only analyst cleared for the intelligence brief. They're sending a car. It'll be here in 2 minutes." Silence. Total, deafening silence. Claire stared at me like I was a stranger. Greg's mother's mouth opened but no sound came out. Dad stood frozen, his glass halfway to his lips. I looked at Greg's father. "I need to take this outside," I said quietly. He nodded. "Of course." I turned and walked toward the doors. My heels clicked on the marble. Every eye in the room followed me. I could feel them burning, questioning. Who is she? What does she do? How did we not know? I pushed through the doors into the cool night air. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From rage. Because I'd spent years hiding. Years keeping my work quiet. Years protecting my family from the reality of what I do. And in one moment, my father had reduced it all to a punchline. A girl in a van. Delivering groceries. The black car pulled up 30 seconds later. The door opened. A man in a suit stepped out. "Miss Calloway?" "Yes. We need you at the Situation Room. Now." I got in. The door closed. And as we pulled away, I looked back at the estate. Through the window, I could see them all. Still standing there. Frozen. Trying to understand what had just happened. I leaned back in the seat. And for the first time that night, I smiled. Not because I wanted this. But because the truth has a way of surfacing. Even when you bury it. Especially when someone tries to bury you. The car moved fast. No sirens. No lights. Just speed and silence. The driver didn't speak. The man in the suit beside me typed on a secure tablet, his face grim. I could see the classified header on the screen, red borders, encryption codes, clearance levels I recognized. This wasn't a drill. "Can you tell me what happened?" I asked. He didn't look up. "You'll be briefed on arrival." "Is it domestic or foreign?" "Both." My stomach dropped. That meant coordinated. That meant planned. That meant someone had been watching, waiting, and we'd missed it. I pulled out my phone. 16 missed calls. 10 texts. All from Claire. I didn't open them. Not yet. I needed to focus. We reached the checkpoint in under 12 minutes. Concrete barriers. Armed guards. Retinal scanners. The kind of security that doesn't exist on any map. The car stopped. I stepped out. The air was colder here. Sterile. The kind of cold that comes from underground fluorescent lights and recycled air. A woman in a dark suit met me at the entrance. I knew her, Agent Diane Kress, Secret Service, assigned to Executive Protection Details. "Emma," she said, her voice clipped. "They're waiting." "How bad?" "Bad enough that you're here." We walked fast. Hallways. Keycards. Biometric doors. Everything was a blur of gray walls and red lights. She pushed open the door to the Situation Room. I stepped inside. The room was packed. Joint Chiefs. National Security Advisor. FBI Director. And at the head of the table, the Secretary of State himself, Harold Brennan, a man I'd briefed a dozen times but never in person. He looked up when I entered. "Ms. Calloway. Thank you for coming." I nodded. "Sir. We have a situation. 40 minutes ago, we intercepted chatter indicating a coordinated attack on 3 major infrastructure targets. Power grids. Water treatment. Communication hubs." My blood went cold. Domestic or foreign actors? Both. Sleeper cells activated by an external command. We believe the trigger came from a server farm in Eastern Europe, but the cells are here. On U.S. soil. Do we have locations? 2 confirmed. 1 is dark. That's where you come in. He slid a folder across the table. I opened it. Photos. Transcripts. Geolocation data. And then I saw it. A name I recognized. A face I'd flagged 6 months ago in a routine surveillance report. "This is Alexei Volkov," I said quietly. Brennan nodded. "You flagged him." I did. He was part of a shell company network funneling money through the Balkans. I wrote a memo recommending further investigation. That memo was deprioritized. I looked up. "By who?" Brennan's jaw tightened. "That's not relevant right now." But it was. Someone had buried my report. Someone had decided it wasn't worth pursuing. And now people were going to die because of it. "We need your analysis," Brennan said. "Volkov's network. His contacts. His patterns. You know this case better than anyone." I looked around the room. All eyes on me. These were men and women who commanded armies. Who made decisions that shaped the world. And they were waiting for me. The girl who delivered groceries. I took a breath. "Volkov doesn't work alone," I said. "He's a facilitator. He moves money, people, information. If he's activated, it means someone higher up gave the order. Who? I don't know yet. But his network has 3 key nodes. 1 in Berlin. 1 in Istanbul. 1 in Miami." "Miami?" "Yes. A logistics company called Meridian Freight. On paper, they move container shipments. In reality, they're a front for weapons and personnel transport." Brennan looked at the FBI director. "Do we have eyes on Meridian?" "Not yet." "Get them. Now." The room moved. Phones. Keyboards. Orders shouted into earpieces. I stood there, heart pounding. This was my work. This was what I did. And no one in that room knew I'd been introduced as a meal kit driver 2 hours ago. Brennan stepped closer. "We need you to stay. This is going to be a long night." "I'm not going anywhere," I said. He nodded. "Good. Because you might have just saved a lot of lives." I wanted to believe that. but all I could think about was the look on Greg's father's face. The confusion. The realization. The question he didn't ask. Why didn't we know? The next 6 hours were a blur. I sat at a terminal, pulling files, cross-referencing contacts, mapping networks. Every name led to another. Every transaction told a story. Volkov wasn't just a middleman. He was an architect. He built systems, laundered money, moved assets. And he did it all in plain sight, hidden behind shell companies and fake invoices and bureaucratic red tape. But I'd seen him. 6 months ago, I'd seen the pattern. And I'd written the report. The report someone buried. At 3 a.m., we got confirmation. FBI raided Meridian Freight. They found weapons, explosives, encrypted communication devices. And they found personnel. 4 men. All foreign nationals. All with ties to Volkov's network. The attack was real. And we'd stopped it. Brennan came over to my station. He looked exhausted. You did good work tonight, Emma. Thank you, sir. I mean it. If you hadn't flagged Volkov 6 months ago, we wouldn't have had a thread to pull. I nodded. He hesitated. I want you to know. I'm going to look into why your report was deprioritized. I'd appreciate that. He started to walk away, then stopped. Emma? Yes, sir? Your father, he doesn't know what you do, does he? I looked down. No. Why not? I didn't answer right away. How do you explain it? How do you tell someone that your own father sees you as a disappointment? That no matter what you achieve, he'll find a way to diminish it? That it's easier to let him believe the lie than to fight for his respect? It's complicated, I said finally. Brennan nodded. Family usually is. He left. I sat there in the dim glow of the monitors, surrounded by people who understood the weight of what we did. And I felt more alone than I had in years. At 6 a.m., they let me go. A car took me back to my apartment. I didn't go to the estate. I didn't call Claire. I just went home. I showered. Changed. Made coffee. And then I sat on my couch and stared at my phone. 43 missed calls now. 22 texts. All from family. I opened the messages. Claire, Emma, what the hell? Claire, why didn't you tell me? Claire, everyone's asking questions. Claire, Dad's upset. Dad's upset. Of course he was. Because his punchline had a PhD and a security clearance. Because his joke had just briefed the Secretary of State. Because the daughter he diminished had spent the night saving lives. I set the phone down. I didn't have the energy for this. Not yet. But the phone rang. Mom. I answered. Emma? Her voice was small. Scared. Hi, Mom. Sweetheart, what happened last night? I closed my eyes. I can't talk about the details. It's classified. But you're really some kind of government analyst? Yes. For how long? 8 years. Silence. Why didn't you tell us? Because it's sensitive work, Mom. It's not something I can talk about at dinner. But your father said, I know what Dad said. More silence. He feels terrible, Emma. I laughed. It came out bitter. Does he? He didn't know. He didn't ask. Emma, Mom, I have to go. Please don't be angry. I'm not angry, I lied. I'm just tired. I hung up. And I realized something. I wasn't angry at Dad for not knowing. I was angry because even if he had known, I don't think he would have believed it. I slept for 3 hours. When I woke up, my phone was ringing again. Unknown number. I answered. Miss Calloway? Yes. This is Harold Brennan. I sat up. Mr. Secretary. I wanted to follow up with you personally. The operation last night was a success. All targets secured. No casualties. That's good to hear. It's more than good. It's because of you. I didn't know what to say. I also wanted to inform you that I've initiated an internal review. Your report on Volkov should never have been deprioritized. Someone made a bad call. I intend to find out who and why. Thank you, sir. Emma, I'm not just calling to thank you. I'm calling to offer you something. My heart skipped. There's a position opening up. Senior Analyst, Strategic Threat Assessment. It's a direct report to my office. Higher clearance. Higher visibility. And frankly, you've earned it. I couldn't breathe. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. I will. Good. I'll have my office send over the details. Take your time. But Emma? Yes? Don't let anyone make you feel small. Not even family. He hung up. I sat there, staring at the wall. Everything had changed. In one night, everything had changed. I thought about Dad. About the way he'd laughed. About the way he'd clapped my shoulder like I was a child. And I realized something. He didn't diminish me because he didn't love me. He diminished me because he didn't understand me. And maybe he never would. But that didn't mean I had to shrink to fit his perception. I got dressed. I made a decision. And I drove to the estate. The house was quiet when I arrived. The party decorations were still up, wilted flowers, half-empty champagne glasses, chairs pushed back from tables. I found Dad in the study. He was sitting in his chair, staring at nothing. When he saw me, he stood up. Emma. Dad. We stood there. The silence was heavy. I'm sorry, he said finally. I crossed my arms. For what? For what I said. I didn't know, you didn't ask. He flinched. Dad, I've been doing this work for 8 years. 8 years. And not once did you ask me about it? Not once did you take me seriously? You thought what? That I was wasting my time? That I wasn't successful? That I wasn't worth being proud of? His face crumpled. No. Emma, no. Then why, Dad? Why did you introduce me like that? He sank back into his chair. Because I didn't understand. Because your work it's invisible. Claire plans events. I can see that. I can show people pictures, talk about venues and guest lists. But you disappear into buildings I can't visit and do things you can't talk about. And I didn't know how to explain that. So you made me sound small. I made a mistake. I looked at him. Really looked at him. He looked old. Tired. And for the first time, I realized something. He wasn't trying to hurt me. He was trying to understand me. And he couldn't. Dad, I said quietly, I need you to know something. Last night, I helped stop an attack. A real attack. People could have died. And they didn't, because I was good at my job. His eyes filled with tears. I know. Do you? Craig's father called me this morning. He told me what happened. He told me you're one of the best analysts in the country. He said his own security briefings mentioned your work. I didn't respond. Emma, I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you. I just didn't know how to say it. I felt my throat tighten. I need you to try, Dad. I need you to see me. I will. I promise. I nodded. And then I turned to leave. Emma? I stopped. What you do, it matters. More than I ever understood. I looked back at him. I know. I walked out. And for the first time in years, I felt light. A week later, I accepted the position. Senior Analyst, Strategic Threat Assessment. My office was on the 4th floor. Window view. My own team. And on my desk, a framed copy of the memo I'd written 6 months ago. The one someone had buried. The one that saved lives. Brennan had it framed for me. So you never forget, he'd said. I wouldn't. Claire called me the day after the promotion was announced. Emma? Hey. I'm sorry. I paused. For what? For not asking. For not knowing. For letting Dad make you feel invisible. I felt my chest tighten. Thank you. I mean it. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. It's okay. No, it's not. But I'm going to do better. I'd like that. We talked for an hour. About work. About family. About the ways we'd both been trying to live up to impossible expectations. And when we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. That night, I sat in my apartment with a glass of wine and stared at the city lights. Answered questions. Provided analysis that would shape policy decisions for the next year. And when I finished, the room applauded. Not because I was a woman. Not because I was young. But because I was good. After the briefing, Brennan pulled me aside. You're going places, Emma. Thank you, sir. I mean it. Don't let anyone dim your light. I nodded. And I thought about Dad. About the way he'd tried to diminish me. And I realized something. He hadn't dimmed my light. He'd just forced me to shine brighter. 6 months later, I was promoted again. Deputy Director, Intelligence Operations. The youngest person to ever hold the position. When the announcement went public, my phone exploded. Messages from colleagues. Friends. People I hadn't spoken to in years. And one from Dad. I'm proud of you, Emma. I always have been. I just didn't know how to show it. But I'm learning. I read it 3 times. And then I called him. Dad? Emma. Congratulations. Thank you. I mean it. You've done something incredible. I couldn't have done it without you. He was quiet. What do you mean? You taught me to prove myself. To work harder. To never let anyone define me. I didn't mean to, I know. But you did. And it made me stronger. He was crying. I could hear it in his voice. I'm sorry, Emma. For everything. I know, Dad. I forgive you. And I meant it. Because holding on to anger would have destroyed me. And I refused to let that happen. A year later, Claire got married. The wedding was beautiful. Flowers everywhere. The same estate. The same people. But this time, when someone asked what I did, Dad didn't answer. He looked at me. And he smiled. Emma works in intelligence, he said. She's one of the best in the country. I felt my eyes sting. Thank you, Dad. He squeezed my hand. And in that moment, I realized something. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing not to let the past define your future. I danced that night. I laughed. I celebrated my sister and her new life. And I felt, for the first time in years, at peace. Because I'd stopped waiting for validation. I'd stopped trying to prove myself to people who didn't understand. I'd learned to validate myself. And that made all the difference. 2 years later, I was invited to speak at a conference. The topic, Women in Intelligence. I stood on that stage in front of hundreds of people and told my story. I told them about the engagement party. About the meal kit joke. About the phone call that changed everything. And I told them the truth. For years, I let other people define me, I said. I let my father's perception shape my reality. I let the world's expectations dictate my worth. But the moment I stopped doing that, the moment I chose to see myself clearly, everything changed. The room was silent. You don't need anyone's permission to be extraordinary. You don't need anyone's approval to do great things. You just need to believe in yourself. And then do the work. The applause was deafening. Afterward, women came up to me. They told me their stories. About fathers who didn't understand. About bosses who overlooked them. About moments when they felt invisible. And I told them the same thing. You're not invisible. You're just waiting for the world to catch up. That night, I sat in my hotel room and thought about the girl I used to be. The one who drove to an engagement party hoping not to be noticed. The one who smiled through humiliation. The one who believed she was small. And I realized. She wasn't small. She was just getting ready. 3 years later, I was named Director of Strategic Intelligence. The announcement made headlines. Youngest director in history. Breaking barriers. A new era. I read the articles with a strange sense of detachment. Because the accolades didn't matter. What mattered was the work. What mattered was the lives saved. What mattered was the girl who'd been laughed at and told she delivered groceries, and decided that wasn't going to define her. Dad framed the first article. He hung it in his study. Right next to Claire's wedding photo. And when I saw it, I cried. Not because I needed his approval. But because he'd finally learned to give it. The last time I saw Greg's parents was at a charity gala. His father approached me with a sheepish smile. Director Calloway. Mr. Ashford. I owe you an apology. I tilted my head. For what? For underestimating you. I smiled. You weren't the first. But I should have known better. Maybe. But now you do. He nodded. For what it's worth, you've done incredible work. Thank you. He hesitated. Greg and Claire talk about you all the time. They're very proud. I'm proud of them too. And I meant it. Because pride isn't a competition. It's a choice. As I walked away that night, I thought about the journey. About the moments that broke me. About the moments that built me. And I realized something. I'd spent so long trying to be seen. Trying to be validated. Trying to prove I was enough. But the truth was simpler. I'd always been enough. I just needed to believe it. So if you're listening to this and you've ever felt small, if you've ever been laughed at or dismissed or told you're not enough, I want you to know something. You are. You always have been. And the moment you stop waiting for the world to see it, the moment you start seeing it yourself, everything changes. Because the truth has a way of surfacing. Even when people try to bury it. Especially when they try to bury you. My name is Emma Calloway. I used to deliver meal kits. Or at least, that's what my father told people. But the truth? I've spent the last decade protecting this country. And I'd do it all over again. Not for the recognition. Not for the applause. But because I finally learned the most important lesson of all. You don't need permission to be extraordinary. You just need the courage to try. And that courage? It starts the moment you stop letting other people write your story. The moment you pick up the pen and write it yourself.